All I can really say is I got a cat sleeping next to me. And I'm going to tell you what type of high school student I was. And I think this will be an interesting one, so let's roll it.
After high demand,
Listening to you and Justin, that's a professional podcast right there.
the man with a voice.
He's got a wicked voice on it too. He does. He's got like, oh my goodness. I listen to his voice. I'm like, dude, you could go places with that voice. You are freaking phenomenal.
Has his own podcast. And what does he think?
Oh,
BoyStick presents the Honestly Lazy Podcast.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Honestly Lazy Podcast with your host, me, BoyStick. There's probably one or two ways you're listening to this right now. It's either you're watching / listening on YouTube at the Honestly Lazy Show YouTube channel, or you type in the Honestly Lazy Podcast, or you listen on Spotify at the Honestly Lazy Podcast. All you gotta do is search it, and it pops right up. I'm pretty sure it's on Apple Music, and what else is on? I gotta check Anchor.fm. Big shout out to Anchor.fm for pretty much making it that much easier to upload the podcast to other platforms besides YouTube. But YouTube is pretty much the preferred one, just because I've always been a YouTuber. So, and plus you get to see my beautiful face as I talk with the podcast. But welcome to the Honestly Lazy Podcast. Couple shout outs, obviously Warm Beer Podcast. I am pumped. Season 2 just came out for that, and I'm really excited because me and him have been talking at work about what he's going to come up with, and that's amazing. The stuff that he's kind of going to do with the show is kind of, well, it's just really cool to really hear his creativity and how far he wants to take it. A big shout out to my boy Suited Bird. That guy, I posted on Twitter at BoyStick Channel. I posted that he just hit 400 subscribers on YouTube. So pumped for him for hitting that. That's a milestone. He's almost at like 100 more, and he's at 500, and then 500 more, and he's at K. And next thing you know, he's at a mil. He's been reaching me into DMs as well on Twitter, but just pretty much saying that the podcast is doing good. And he's been giving me a bunch of shout outs for just a bunch of random stuff and his own personal stuff, so that's pretty cool. Shout out to obviously Uncle Dust Comedy. That guy has been killing it. Just like, you know, and once again, shout out to everyone who just listens to this. If I forgot your name, I'm sorry, but you know, it's crazy. My grandparents found my podcast, which I laughed my ass off. My aunt has me on Facebook, and I share it on Facebook to all my friends so they can listen to this. And my aunt showed my grandparents, and they said, well, you talk, and you have a good voice for it, and I think you should keep going with it. Oh, wait, I got to give a shout out to Quinn Mar is definitely in my corner for like just content creating in general. That guy has just been nonstop. Like, we've been going back and forth, telling each other our goals for 2020, and we both have pretty reasonable goals. I just want this channel to get a bit bigger and get a bit more further in different types of content creating, but I've gone in depth with that stuff before, so I don't want to bore you with too much of that. You can watch Cheers to 2019 to hear pretty much all about that. But with that, I was just sitting here, and it's weird. This is going to be episode 10, so there's only been 10 episodes of the Honestly Lazy Podcast, and I'm already like, what the hell am I going to talk about for the next one? But there's one thing that I've always kind of wanted to talk about, and I've talked about in the past on BoyStick Stories on SoundCloud and stuff, but I figured why not just put everything together into one podcast, and then it's just all out of the way. Probably talk about the stuff that I've talked about in the past, like the literacy test. I might talk about that, but if I don't, SoundCloud BoyStick Stories, it'll pop up, and I talk about the literacy test and my struggles with it. I've talked about high school a little bit, but I've never really talked about the classes that I failed. And it's so funny I've never talked about the classes I failed, because 2 of them that I failed, people are like, how the hell did you fail that class? That's an easy ass class. And I figured talk about in the podcast, and there you go. You get a whole episode, and you can pretty much just make fun of the fact of how the hell do you fail that class in high school. But yeah, high school was fun. I really don't know how I'm going to start this. I kind of just started recording, and I guess it's kind of working. But high school was a fun time for me. I'm not going to lie. But like I said, people are so shocked about the classes I failed. Mostly just the first two that I ever failed in high school. And it's not like I failed a lot of classes. I never failed more than one class a year, but I always failed one class a year, which resulted in 2 years of summer school and almost not graduating grade 12 because I almost had to go to summer school, or knowing me, I'd be like, screw summer school, and I was just going to do another semester, but I wasn't too sure. But with high school, I'm not going to lie, I was a big slacker. And it was the weirdest thing, because before high school, I was really a nerd more than anything. I was a nerd. I was not really... I was a nerd. Always did my homework. Always made sure all my homework was done. And when I got to grade 9, I learned that before then, they always checked your homework every day when you got to class. But in grade 9, they don't give a shit. If you don't hand it in or you don't do it, you just fail. But from grade 1 all the way up to grade 8, they always checked my homework. And if you didn't do it, you got detention or something. I don't really remember. But in grade 9, they stopped checking your homework, which was really an interesting thing for me, because that's when I realized I'll never have to do homework again. And that was the first thing of how I became a very big slacker, because I stopped doing my homework at the start of grade 9, and I never did homework all the way through grade 12. And from a guy who did it and didn't do his homework and stuff, all I say is just do the homework. It's like the homework wasn't even that hard. I just didn't want to do it. I wanted to hang out with my friends instead. But the big thing is, if you want to go to a good college or something, you need, unfortunately, higher than 50s with your homework. But I'll just get into the first class that I failed, and it was in grade 9. And this is the one that blows people away. It's like, Stick, how the hell did you fail this class? And the class, I'm going to tell you, and you're going to be the same way, and it was grade 9 art. And people can't believe it when I tell them I failed grade 9 art. How the hell do you fail grade 9 art? All you have to do is draw, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Because I could play drums, and I could have taken music class instead and probably gone drums and probably would have got that crap. But I thought, screw it, I haven't drummed in about a year. I'm pretty sure I still actually had my drum set. And I was like, no, I'm going to go to art class. That's a way easier one. So, I kind of peeked there. So, in grade 9, I figured, that was the only year that I smoked pot. I was 14 in grade 9. And in grade 9, I decided to smoke pot after school. And I thought that would get me interested in drawing, because I had no interest in drawing at all. I am a creative guy. That's one thing I'm really proud of myself about, is that I'm actually a pretty creative guy. I can create short stories easily. I could probably write scripts easily, but I have few issues with writing, but I can create stories pretty well, and I could create something have a beginning, middle, and end, and it'd probably be a passing grade. But with drawing and getting high, instead of me drawing, I would sit and watch SpongeBob and eat peanut butter on crackers and popcorn. I ate a lot of popcorn. And instead of doing the homework, I just did that. And little did I realize that there's actually art history in grade 9 art. So I had to learn about artists, which was the most boring thing I could ever do. And I had to learn art history, like the group of 7 that painted up Algonquin Park, and a fucking Stonehenge was a part of it. I don't know why that was a part of it, but there was a bunch of crazy stuff mixed into art history. And turns out you have to study for that. My dumb ass didn't. So I flunked that. I didn't hand in the final project, which was you had to take a water bottle and you put some metal around it and made it look like a dragon. And I was so not interested in that yes, I failed it because of that last assignment. And all the journals I didn't draw in. I think I only handed in one assignment that whole year. So yeah, I can see why I failed. But lucky for me, by the time I got to high school, there was a little thing called credit recovery. So I didn't have to go in with all the grade 9s and grade 10 when I was in grade 10 and redo the class. I was put in a classroom with a bunch of people in all different grades, and all I had to do was draw one thing, and I passed. It was a magnificent thing. I loved credit recovery. It was the easiest thing, and I had a chance to go to the Toronto Zoo and the Mandarin. And if you don't know what the Mandarin is, it's the best all-you-can-eat buffet around. But I didn't do it that year. I did do it down the road when I failed the literacy test, but I didn't do it in grade 9. Or in grade 10 because I had anxiety issues and I couldn't get on the bus. But I remember I failed grade 9 art and I said, that's it. I'm not failing another class. That was embarrassing. I can't believe I failed grade 9 art. And then I failed grade 10 civics. No, grade 10 careers. And that was when a lot of people said, how the hell do you fail grade 10 careers? And it's a very simple answer here, ladies and gentlemen. The teacher was so boring. And I mean boring. He was like, you know that teacher at the beginning of Ferris Bueller's Day Off that's doing the attendance and everyone was sleeping? That was my teacher. But near the end of the day, he would put me to sleep. But luckily this teacher didn't care how many people went to the washroom, and I asked him to go to the washroom every day. I'd come in, get my attendance done, ask to go to the washroom, and I'd leave, and I'd come back for the last 10 minutes, grab my bag, and then leave the class. That teacher actually turned out to be a really nice guy. I talked to him at my prom. He's actually a very interesting dude. It's just I got a feeling he didn't want to teach careers. And that was the funniest thing because I remember in that class, it was throughout the whole year, they're teaching you how to write resumes and how to do job interviews and all that stuff. And all the other types of stuff to how to get your career going. So how your final assignment was that the teacher gave you a job and you did your research and you created a cover letter and a resume to go to a job interview for that said job. And we had all the computer time we wanted. I used it to play Pac-Man and watch YouTube videos. And I remember looking at it the day I had my interview because I knew I was one of the first ones to go. And I looked at the title and it said computers. I was like, shit. Okay, so it's about computers. And I sat down. And I swear to God, it was the biggest bomb I think anyone ever saw in that class. Me trying to bullshit my way through this without doing my research. He was like, so what makes you think you're good for the job? And I said, I'm good with computers. What values do you bring to the company? I'm good with computers and I'm good at working with a team. He asked all these questions. I gave one-word answers, and I missed the class. I actually remember walking home the day that he said this, and he said, don't ask what the hours are like and how much you get paid. At the end, they say, is there any questions for me? And those were the 2 questions that I asked him. So yeah, I failed that. But because it was a half credit, I only had to go to summer school for 1 week, which was fantastic. Grade 11 is when I became probably the biggest shit of my life. Grade 11 and grade 12. Me and my buddy had a lot of fun causing a lot of shit during those days. I got suspended twice in grade 11 and in grade 12. Both times totally my fault. The first time I said some inappropriate things to the vice principal because she made me mad. Second time, I wouldn't give a teacher a phone during that because I failed the literacy test. I took a class, and it was a 2-week exam. You could write the exam for 2 weeks, so I didn't want to do it one day, so I went on my phone instead, and she said, "You're in an exam. Give me your phone." I said, "No." And when they sent me to the office, I said F off, and then I went out and got a Pepsi and hung out with my buddies in the smoker section, and that got me suspended. But grade 11 was one of the funniest years of my high school, I guess. I'll just call it my high school career. Because my first day of grade 11, I got yanked into the office because, what'd I do? Oh, because someone threw their Coke bottle on the ground, and the vice principal was like, "Justin, pick that up." I'm like, "No, make them pick it up. It's not mine." She told me pick it up. Literally, there's a cop, the high school cop sitting right next to me. She's like, "I'll make you pick it up." I'm like, "Go ahead. Like, it's not mine. I'm not picking it up. How are you going to make me pick it up? Are you going to arrest me for littering?" Which she could have fined me, but it wasn't mine. I was like, "It's not mine. I'm not picking it up." I'm not going to lie. I was just a stubborn kid back then. That's about it. So my first day, I got yanked in the office for that. And I got detention because I was already late for class. I went in to get my late slip, and if you got a late slip, you got detention. And then they yanked me in the office because she was like, "You disobeyed me," and I was like, "Yeah, and I'm going to keep disobeying you." Kids, don't do this shit that I did. Trust me, it'll make your life a lot easier if you just get from point A to point B. Get to your classes, do your work, and get out of high school. Trust me, it makes your life a lot easier. Don't be a little shit like I am, because then you have a target on your back. So that was my first day. I got a late slip, and they said you have detention tomorrow. Yeah, I didn't go to detention, and one detention quickly turned into they yanked me in the office during lunch break. And they said, "You need to go to 17 detentions in a row." And my 16-year-old ass was like, "Yeah, that's not going to happen." And they said, "Yes, it is." And I said, "Good luck." And then I yelled at my vice principal. She must have thought I had issues or something, because she just let me yell at her. She must have thought there was something going on at home, like Daddy was beating me or something like that. She just let me ream her out. And after I finished yelling at her, I said, I'll do one detention, and then we're good. I only had to do one detention. like if I was the vice principal and what I said to her was said to me, I'd be like, "Oh, you are like in the biggest trouble ever." And then grade 10, what did I fail in grade 10? Oh no, this was grade 11. I'm on grade 11, I'm mixing them all up. Grade 11, I failed English. I can explain why I failed English that year. It wasn't because I was illiterate. I sucked at reading by any means, but I'll give you the reasons why I actually failed grade 11 English. And it was a few reasons. First of all, hated reading. And during silent reading, this was my first class in the morning. I'm half asleep. It was my first class, and they'd be silent reading in the morning. They wouldn't let me leave, so I had to sit there, and I didn't want to read. They wouldn't let me listen to my music, so I'd start talking to people. Because I was like, I'm not sitting here in silence. I'm a twitchy guy, if you don't notice in the videos. My hands are always moving all over the place. I am a twitchy guy. And they're saying they're trying to make me read a freaking book. And I was like, "No, I don't want to read. Is there anything else I can do?" They said, "No. You got to read the book." So that was the first issue. I used to get kicked out of class by the teacher. And she thought putting me out in the hallway, I'd read the book. And I'd huck my book in the air. Once I made a penny tower. I used to go to my locker. I used to wander the halls. And she never noticed. That was the weirdest part. I wandered the halls and she never noticed. But I did. And I got, it was crazy. What I do to just not read. and they wouldn't let me listen to music. That was the biggest thing. If they would just let me listen to music, I would have been fine in that class. But they always made it an issue. Like, no, you got to do the silent reading. And I was like, no, I'm not doing the silent reading. And I do other things. So that was the first issue. Like, silent reading. Hated silent reading. Second of all, were the books that we had to read. In grade 11, there was 2 books, I do believe. And one of them, I don't even remember the names of either of them. But I remember one, there was a movie that we watched after everyone else read the book and I didn't. And the book was about a mentally challenged person who has brain surgery. And then when he gets so smart that, what the hell? He becomes so smart that he realizes how dumb he was or something. And there's like a mouse in it. And the mouse dies because he had the same surgery as what this guy went through. And then the mouse, and then he's like, well, I don't even know because I didn't read the book. Pretty much he goes from being really like mentally challenged to a genius to back to mentally challenged. So my biggest issue was I couldn't read it when he was mentally challenged because the guy who wrote the book made him misspell a lot, which to a person with a normal mind could read probably just fine. Me with a reading disability is like, what the fuck is this? Why can't he spell? Why don't people understand I can't read well? And then he becomes so smart that he's using these big words that I couldn't read. So I was like, okay, now he's a genius and I can't read it still. I had to do the cliff notes to like barely pass, like, no, I remember reading the cliff notes, and even those I was like, what the hell is this? And then the guy becomes mentally challenged again, and I couldn't read it again because it was just a lose situation for me. And the worst part was they wouldn't even let me pick my own book. I'm like, I'll read a different book, I just don't want to read this one. They said no, and I said, okay, well, we got one more chance. Maybe the next book I will read and I will like just get no problem. The next book, I forget what this one was about, but I remember it was about a native living on the reserve who wanted to go to like a normal school. That's as far as I got in the book. He wanted to go to a normal school. He had this big Indian friend or native friend. I shouldn't be saying Indian. Native friend who beats the crap out of him because he wants to go to a different school. And that's as far as I got. And the reason why I only got that far is because I remember there was like 3 pages where it talked about how this kid masturbated. And I was like, I'm done. And that was literally it for me. I was like, I'm done. I'm not reading a book about where there's pages about a kid talking about how he plays a little 5-on-1 on himself. I'm out. So I stopped reading right there, which ended up making me fail the class. And then I had to go to summer school for 2 weeks for English, where we read Of Mice and Men. And believe it or not, I actually finished that book. I wasn't interested in it, but I only had 2 weeks. And if I didn't read it, I probably would have failed summer school too. And that would have been a big, big issue. Was it grade 12? Yeah, it was. No, was it grade 12? I think it was grade 12 and I had to take the literacy course. Yeah, it was. I failed the literacy test in grade 10 twice, and I'll just go through that really quick. I failed the literacy test twice in grade 10. Or I failed in grade 10, went in grade 11, failed it again, so I had to do the course. The literacy test is so stupid, and I don't think it should even be a part of anything. If you fail it, and to anybody who's listening to this, if you fail that literacy test, don't even feel stupid, because it's a stupid test. Because I think the reason why I failed is because I didn't use a third person. I was talking in first person. I gave my opinions because that's the way I've always been. And they hate it. The whole thing is you do not say I. You give it like, write your 5 paragraphs. And it was fucking bullshit. And it pissed me off because it actually made me feel like down, yeah, like lower level type person. But now I'm sitting here like, well, look, I don't need the literacy test to survive. All right. You know what you need to fucking survive is be able to read a tape measure. That's what you need. Not fucking, you need to be able to write an essay. To that government test, the literacy test, all the government dummies who mark it like you're all pieces of shit. And like your test is the most fucking bullshit thing I have ever seen. To like, and don't think if you're marking that you're smart, because you're fucking not. You're an idiot. for making kids do that test and think that they're illiterate. Trust me, if you fail that test, you're not. And to people who try to make fun of you because you failed that test, fuck them. That's all I'll say about that. But I had to do the course, and it was belittling. I was sitting there with grade 9s, grade 10s, grade 11s, and grade 12s who all, like, were... I don't even know how to describe it. They were all in the same thing. So I was like, great, I'm learning in the same level as grade 9s and grade 10s again, and grade 11s. And I was like, I don't want to do this. The only good thing was I got to go, that was the year, because I failed the test, I got to go to the zoo and Mandarin. That was a big thing that people were pissed off about to me. You failed the literacy test twice and you get rewarded by going to the zoo? And all I wanted to say was go sit in that classroom, man. You feel like an idiot. Because if you just feel so basic. And it was just terrible. I hated the literacy test. Because it made me feel dumb. And I had to do that course, and that made me feel dumb. So yeah, you know what? Going to the zoo and Mandarin made me, like, I was like, you know what? That makes me feel a bit better. Because this made me feel like that class made me feel like below average. So to the people who passed, yeah, you passed. Feel smart for yourself. Like, I didn't, and it really fucked with me for a little bit. So screw all that. Don't, like, it really pissed me off. But yeah, grade 12 was a different type of year for me. Grade 12 was funny in a lot of different ways. Grade 12 was... it wasn't funny. It was just different. I was working a lot, so I didn't really party as much as I wanted to. Trying to think of it. I failed grade 12 math. That was my own fault, though. And the dumbest thing was, I didn't skip class in grade 9 and grade 10 where the marks didn't matter. But grade 11 and 12 is when I skipped, when, like, that's when you're applying for colleges and stuff. But my point of view back then was different. I never thought I was even going to go to college. And I skipped. Like grade 12, I skipped a lot. I remember in grade 12, because you go through the winter, and if it was a nice sunny day and the snow was melted, I was skipping, like, pretty much all day just to be outside and enjoying the day. But I picked the 2 worst years to skip class when the marks really mattered. I think I was like a 50 average student, but you know what? I graduated. So that's all that matters there. Like I said, like I in the literacy or my high school days, I forget which one, I talk about how I really even graduated grade 12, but I'll say it again because I was so lucky. In grade 12, I had grade 12 English. And at this point, like, I didn't care. I honestly, at this point, because I already failed grade 12 math, I was like, I'm probably going to fail grade 12 English just because I always hated English class. I always hated reading, and I was like, it's going to be the same thing, different year, same type of teacher. But I lucked out because the teacher was the most chill teacher. The teacher knew that I wasn't interested in school, and he kept getting sent to different schools because of how he treated the students. He treated them like, you know what, if you're not doing it now, it's either you're never going to do it or you're going to learn. Because when you go to college, you're going to be interested in what you do. And that was a fact. When I went to college, I was interested and I did all my homework and all that type of stuff. But I think with him especially, he kind of sensed what my personality was going to be like. I think he knew that if I was interested in something, I would do it. I was always writing rap music in his class, and I think that's when he realized, well, if he's interested in something, he'll just do that instead. So that's when I think he figured that he just needs to get through high school. And he pretty much told me, or he didn't tell me, but I knew if I passed all my other classes, passed all the exams, he would have passed me too. And he did. He literally passed me because I didn't read the books that he made us read. We read Night. I think we read another one, but I remember we had to read Night and I didn't read it. And then he got us to watch The Boy in the Striped Pajamas and Schindler's List. And I didn't watch Boys in the Striped Pajamas. I thought it was boring from the beginning. And I didn't know how it ended. And then someone told me the ending. And I was like, I'm glad I didn't watch the ending then. But he would do the weirdest things. He would go out of his way to help out his students, which was a big thing for me. He would help me in ways like, one day I went into the classroom and there was a supply teacher there, and he said, "What's your name?" And I said, Justin. And he said my last name, which I'm sure. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I got a clap. I have a thing. So I told him my last name, and he said, "Your name's on the board. You need to go to the next room." And in between his classroom, there was a computer room and another classroom. So there was like a little hallway in between where there was a random microwave, and like, if a teacher needed to eat something quick, he could go in between, whatever. So I walked through the hallway I walked through the little thing, and he was sitting in the computer room, and I was like, "What the hell, man? Why'd you get a supply teacher?" He said, "Well, I hired him. I'm using a sick day, and I need you guys to hand me in one thing." We had to write something out. I forget what it was. Just a random topic. Or you had to write or finish one assignment that he's handed out throughout the whole year. Hand him one, and you were passing. He brought everyone in who was failing that class and said, "Here's a computer. Give me one assignment, and you're passing again." And so I handed my one in, and they said, "You can go back to class or you can go on YouTube. I don't care." And I just remember, what it was the exam day. Because I went to the exam, and because of how nice or how passionate, or not even how passionate or how nice or anything, it was just because I really liked his personality. I tried really hard on that exam, and I was the last one out of there. I'm pretty sure he gave me extended time, which I had an IEP or whatever, one of those things where you could get extended time, but I never got my mom to fill out the paperwork to give me extended time. He just gave me it. And I remember walking up to his desk, and he was like, "How do you think you did?" I was like, "Man, I failed." And he was like, "Well, I'll mark yours first." He's like, "Write down your phone number. I'll give you a call when I'm done." I remember going home, and he said before he left, he's like, "You're not going to summer school, and you're graduating grade 12 if I have anything to say for it." He says, "If you really failed that bad, you're coming in tomorrow. I'm giving you a package, and you're doing that, and you pass." And I was like, "All right, cool." The guy gave me a 50 just so I could get through. And I remember him saying to me, "Now, like, go do something. Like, go do something that you're interested in." And I did. I went to school for film. It took me 2 years, but I went to school for film. And if it wasn't for that teacher doing that for me, I don't know what the hell my mindset would have been like for the end of my high school years, because he's the one who sticks out in my mind every time I think about high school. Like, that's the reason why I got out of high school. That's why I love what I do. That's why I didn't have to deal with that shit for like another semester. And I wasn't like a good student by any means, and to have a teacher like that, to this day I'm like, I didn't deserve a teacher like that, like, at all. I should have just failed for the way I acted, but I was hands down the luckiest kid to have a teacher like that in my corner for especially my last year of high school. And it's kind of like, and the worst part was he left that high school after I graduated. And I remember for my graduation, throughout the whole year, it was like in high school, you always had to take your hats off. But in his class, he said, "I don't care. Like, you can keep it on if you want." And I would always keep my hat on. I hated taking my hat off. It actually made me insecure to take my hat off. I wore my hat to my prom. I wore my hat like everywhere. I pretty much wore it into the shower. I remember we were all walking out to go do graduation. Like, you walk out and you sit down, all that shit. And I walked out, and there was teachers walking beside you, and he made sure he was beside me, and he smacked my cap down in my face. And I was like, "What the hell?" And he was like, "Finally seeing you without that hat on." Oh, that was it, man. High school was crazy for me. Just thinking about it. Like, I loved high school. As much as I sit there and I hated a lot of stuff about it, by the end of high school, I think I had some of the best people I could hang out with. I had a very relaxed social crew. And by the end of high school, I was like so done with high school. Like I in grade 9 and 10, it was like, oh my God, I was like one of those drama-filled high school kids. 11 and 12, I didn't care for drama. There were so many rumors going on about me that were like completely wrong. Some of them I was like, yeah, I wish that kind of happened to me, but like I didn't care, and it pissed off a lot of people that were like, they were starting rumors about, and people would always message me like, did you hear this rumor about you? And I'm like, yeah. Aren't you going to do something about it? I'm like, no, I know it's not true, and the people who really know me know it's not true, so why the hell should I care? That's the one thing, yeah, I could definitely tell somebody is if I could give one advice or a little bit of advice for people who might listen to this who are in high school or something, I'll just say this. This will be like my ending, I guess, quote for the podcast and for this high school rant. High school isn't everything. Popularity and all that is stupid. Don't try to be one of those kids, because I did in grade 9, 10 try to be a popular kid, and that fucking failed big time. So honestly, just whatever you're interested in, stick with it. If you like playing games that people are going to make fun of you for, like I played RuneScape, people made fun of me for it, and I stopped playing it because of it. Don't listen to them, keep playing it, because high school isn't everything. And if there's a rumor or something about you in high school, I guarantee you no one will ever remember it once you're out of high school. If I could say something else, yes, you can have a lot of fun partying in high school. I had a few good party experiences myself, but I'll tell you one thing: don't just focus on all that type. Like, you can go party and have fun and stuff, but for me, if there's one thing I'd tell you, is that the real party doesn't start until after high school. I've had a lot more fun with the party in life after high school than I did in high school. So if you're missing out on parties and stuff like that, don't worry about it. You'll have your own experiences, and life will be great. If I could go back, I probably wish I'd never partied at all and saved the money. For all you know, I could have bought a house by now if I didn't booze as much as I did. But just make high school the best that you can, and don't fucking listen to anybody, and be happy for yourself. Because high school, from my experience, can be a very miserable place. But for some reason, when I look back on it now, I think only happy things. But I was a little bit miserable back then. But make it the best that you can, and just fuck everybody. Do whatever makes you happy. Like, be a nerd, be a jock, be whatever makes you happy, and fuck everyone, and stay the fuck away from hardcore drugs. I've heard they're doing a lot more hardcore drugs than back in my day. Back in my day, it was just smoking pot. And there's a lot more we did in high school that I could touch on later, but we used to do a bunch of dumb shit. But for this episode, just that's where I'll probably just end it. That was the class that I failed, the literacy test, and whatever the hell else. This was just off the top of my head, a last minute type idea for the podcast. And Waylon's just getting up, my little kitty. You can't see him, but if I lift up the camera, there he is. I disturbed him. I disturbed my kitty. So that will end it for the Honestly Lazy podcast. For this, hang on, I'm grabbing my key. That'll end it for this week on the Honestly Lazy podcast with your boy Stick. If you liked this video on YouTube, please leave a like. Let me know your high school experiences in the comment section down below, and make sure to click that subscribe button with notifications on, so you stay up to date with the Honestly Lazy programs. Because there will be more than just a podcast coming to you soon. Until next time, it's your boy Stick, and take her easy because I'm holding an adorable little kitty. Oh, before I go, make sure to check out all my social medias. Links are in the description down below. My Instagram is what I use probably the most. My Twitter I use a little bit. Facebook, well, you can like my Facebook page, but Instagram and Twitter are the two that I use the most. All right? So until next time, it's your boy Stick. I'm out. Peace. Waylon.